What is up, my friends? It is Thursday evening and it's a pleasure to be with you. Of course, I wish it was under better circumstances, but tonight we're going to go through it all again. I feel like we're going to be having this conversation for a little bit longer because it seems like the club still aren't acting to remove Arne Slot as head coach. So we'll try to figure out what on earth that means going forward, what the media have had to say, what other fans have had to say. Of course, we'll run through some of the numbers. We'll talk about the transfer window. But ultimately, look, I wanted to kick off tonight by saying I've spent the day today interacting with people, recording content, reading articles. And one thing that comes across to me from anybody I've interacted with is everybody feels numb. Everybody feels frustrated. Everybody feels sad. And it feels like there's no end in sight. And I don't just mean there's no end in sight with regards to the poor performances, because it's just going to be, we're going to have to sit here and wait until Arne gets fired. Because that's how this is going to end. He is not going to turn this around. He is one victory in, then 3 more losses. It's just not going to happen. There's no numbers to back up keeping him. There's no sense to keep him. He has to be fired. It's just a matter of when. And the fact that the club are still just burying their heads in the sand with it feels really, really frustrating to me. It feels like they don't want to admit they made a mistake. Hughes and Edwards don't want to admit they've made a mistake. And I don't mean made a mistake by appointing Arne, because of course he won a league title. But they are just doubling down on failure now. And it looks weak. It looks tin pot. You've even got Carragher now going in on the trips to Ibiza and the end of the season partying before the season was over. It just doesn't feel very us. And I know we aren't a club that sack managers, but this is beyond a debate. I don't know anybody at this point who thinks the manager should be kept. And look, of course, it's not all on his shoulders. We got to sit here tonight, we got to talk about the players. They're not doing their jobs either. But we know how football works. It's usually when these things happen, yes, the players will be lambasted in the media, we'll have our say as fans, but ultimately, the manager is the one whose head will roll at the end of this process. But there are some players at this football club now. I'm looking at the Mohamed Salahs of this world. I'm looking at the Virgil van Dijks of this world, who need to stop failing, quite simply. It's not good enough. You cannot sign the contract you did and perform as you are and think that this is going to continue. But the problem here is, folks, our manager simply doesn't have it in him at the moment to act on this, to hold people to account. Jamie Carragher is a massive hypocrite. And I'm going to explain why tonight, because I'm fed up of him. I'm fed up of others in the media and double speak. One thing in front of the camera, another thing off the camera. He wants Slot fired. You've seen it. I've seen it. We'll go through it. But of course, he's a week to save his job now, is the line on Sky from Carragher. No, he doesn't, Jamie. You wanted him fired yesterday. Just say it. It's okay. You don't get extra brownie points for being a brown noser. Just say it. It isn't acceptable. He should be fired. So that's where I'm at. Welcome in. Nice to be here with you. Let's get through a couple of comments. Callum Wilson brace on Sunday. You heard it here first. Mate, the fact that we're even having to joke about this as, you know, well, we're going to lose on Sunday. That's the most damning part of all of this. It's the most damning part of all of it. Is that there is just no sense that this can be turned around. Look, the best I've seen from people who think Arne should stay in the job is because, one, he won the league last year, and two, they don't think all the fault lies with him. And I can get that to some extent. But like I said at the very start of this stream, the manager's the one whose head ultimately rolls in these situations. And players, look, we can talk about how they need to be moved on, when they need to be moved on, what they need to do differently, and we'll have that conversation. But it's just crazy. And this stuff, people need to chill. No, we don't need to chill. Not one bit. Not even a little bit. Think about this. As Liverpool fans, you and I and the match-going fans have had to sit here week after week seeing dross. No fight. No clue. No tactics. Nothing. And then had to listen to Arne in his post-match comments, in his press conference comments, talk absolute pony. Absolute waffle. There's nothing that's going to change this until he's fired. Nothing. So, let me read you through why I'm so frustrated with Jamie Carragher. Because ultimately, He said what Konate did was a sackable offence for the manager. Playing him was a sackable offence. That's Jamie Carragher when the Sky cameras aren't in front of him. When somebody else is filming him on a phone, that's his real reaction. Same as you, same as me, giving out absolute stink, and rightly so, when Konate's shambolic, brainless defending once again cost us. So why isn't he saying that to the camera when they are rolling? Why isn't he saying that playing Konate again was ridiculous and that alone should be enough to fire the manager? Because if he's happy to say it off camera, why isn't he fronting up? Because it's that type of laziness, that type of duplicitous nonsense that keeps him in a job. When you've got people backing up the club and saying, oh yeah, it's too early to sack the manager. No, it isn't. It absolutely is not. None of these lads, if they're in that dressing room, your McManamans, your Gerrards, none of them would have been putting up with this shit. So why all of a sudden now is it acceptable? Because he won a league last year? Tough. Standards are standards. We either have them or we don't. And this feeling sorry for ourselves bollocks needs to stop. Somebody needs to stand up, grow a pair, and call this like it is. Thoughts on De Zerbi, Iraola and Mancini? Which one? Not Mancini. Certainly not Mancini. I don't think De Zerbi is the right type of Carragher for us. Iraola is an interesting one. But there is risk involved, you know, and I do acknowledge that. It's not as simple as sack Arna, have somebody lined up. I get it. It isn't that straightforward. But not stopping the rot and allowing more games, more points to get away from us. So what we've now done is guarantee that we're probably going to have 2 playoff games. So an extra 2 games into the season now for our injury-ravaged, tired squad. Another 2 games because of their own ineptitude. That was PSV Eindhoven. Let's not talk about this as Pep Guardiola's prime Barcelona or PSG last season. That was a bang average PSV Eindhoven, who are still below us in the Champions League table even after trouncing us 4-1. And we were played off the park. They were a team that looked like they had a shape. They were a team that looked like they had an identity. And they were a team who looked like they knew what the manager wanted them to do. We looked absolutely clueless. Again and again and again. And Arna just keeps doing the same things. So what is it that makes Messrs Hughes, Edwards, John W. Henry, Tom Werner, Mike Gordon or anybody else think that this is turning or this is going to turn? Because it feels like it's getting worse, not better. That's my take on it anyway. Feel free to let me know yours. Endo 6 for more aggression with Grafenberg free roll. That's a possibility, of course. You know, with the squad that we have, mate, that's a possibility. But again, it's still a standard that's not good enough because Endo isn't good enough. He isn't good enough in that position. He isn't good enough ultimately longer term. We're once again trying to just find solutions to madness. Like, how do we go out and have the summer that we had, and then we're sitting here with 2 goalkeepers on the bench, 3 players less in our squad than the travelling team from the Netherlands, and an injured Joe Gomez on the bench who can play? After spending 450 million quid, it's insane. It really is. I want to read you through some of the coverage that Sky gave the game last night. I'm not sure which one of the journalists were covering this. It might have been Adam Bate. It may have been somebody else. I'm not sure. But I want to just read through to you what they had to say on 3 key players for me in that game. Mohamed Salah, Ibrahim Konate, and Milos Kerkez. I'm going to read through what they've had to say on it. There'll be more sympathy for Curtis Jones in the other fullback position, even if he did give the ball away inexplicably inside his own area in the second half. Arne Slot is making do at right back, while Conor Bradley and Jeremy Frimpong are both unavailable. But whoever operates at right back will find themselves targeted and isolated while it is Salah playing in front of them. The winger does very little defensive work, something that was seen as a stylistic success when he was delivering in front of goal. Now, his output has dipped. It's an opportunity for every opponent. For the second PSV Eindhoven goal, Junior was allowed to wander past Salah without so much as a challenge, building the move from which the Dutch side restored their lead in the game. On top of that, we have Konate, and they said, Van Dijk's fellow centre-back, Ibrahim Konate, is hardly helping his defensive partner. His failure to deal with a simple ball forward allowed PSG to get in behind the build-up for the third goal. Had Liverpool been able to deal for Mark Gay in the summer, Konate would be one of them already who's gone. Slot seems to have little faith in Joe Gomez, while Giovanni Leone is out for the season. Konate's poor form is more than a blip. It's undermining them on a regular basis. Is it confidence or just being too casual? Whatever the issue, Slot cannot rely on a player who should be in his prime, but is little between games. But in his prime, with little time between games, is tough to correct. And then they said concerns grow over Kirkes. The left back has made a sluggish start to his Liverpool career, losing his place to Andy Robertson before the international break. He was troubled from the outset by Serginho Dest and Gus Till. Perhaps most worryingly, he could be seen remonstrating with Virgil van Dijk not long before being caught out for PSV's second goal. His own teammates turned around in horror to see he'd been beaten. This is what we are looking at. A manager who keeps playing Konate, even though he's costing us goals literally every week at this point. He keeps playing Salah, who can't cut it in front of goal and can't do it defensively. Virgil lost his mind yesterday, and our left back was making underlapping runs into the area that Cody Gakpo was occupying, as well as being rash in the challenge and diving in. I don't know, lads, I don't know what to say. It's soul destroying. To hear that they had a meeting today and that the outcome of that meeting wasn't, thanks for your time, Arna, but we're going to let you go. I don't see it. I don't see any justification to keep him. Jake, the British dude, said, as a Man United fan, I think Slot is doing a brilliant job. I'm sure you do, mate, but, at least you're there close to us, so, let's not make out like United are having an awesome season either. Look, I accept the banter. It's part of the process. It's part of what I do. But, being bantered by United is a little bit rich at this moment in time, because you're not exactly tearing things up. I've done that one. This one. Slot doesn't have a plan B. Looks lost, to David Messett. And thank you, David, as always. Appreciate you being in. He doesn't look like he has a plan B. He doesn't. And that's absolutely insane. I'd ignore Lewis Steele. He has limited insight. I'm not just basing it off Lewis Steele. I'm basing it off other people who I've been in contact with today as well. But for what you said, this is what Lewis Steele said. Arne Slot is undoubtedly under pressure, but retains the backing of the Liverpool hierarchy right now, according to sources close to Liverpool and the head coach. Slot will speak to the media today, which he did at 3 p.m. And I watched that press conference. It just, again, was just more waffle. So, is there anybody in our chat that's a Liverpool fan that thinks Arne Slot should say? And if so, if you could please tell me what you're seeing, because I'd love to be able to just think, oh, I didn't think of that, and maybe I'm wrong. Genuinely, at this point, I would love that. So if there's anybody that's Slot in, please do tell us why and exactly what you're thinking. Virgil van Dijk just posted this. More words from Virgil, because that's what we need now, Virgil. More words. We're facing one of the toughest moments of our journey, but we refuse to let this define us. Really? You're doing a good job of not refusing it, Virgil. We'll rise from this. I believe in this team with everything I have. Nothing has ever been handed to us. We fought for everything, and this moment is no different. It's just a word salad. We won't give in, won't give up. Every challenge is an opportunity. We must grow together, lift each other up, blah, blah, fucking blah. Because that's all that is. Waffle. Waffle. What you did, though, Virgil, was go out there and punch the ball like you were a goalkeeper, then remonstrate with the referee, then make a stupid challenge to get yourself booked, and then moan for the rest of the game. That's what you're actually doing, Virgil. So all of this shit, all of these social media posts, all of these sound bites, stop it, because it's embarrassing. You're not going out there on the pitch and playing with the passion that you seemingly have on social media. Where's that energy? Where's that fight and aggression? Craig, what do you think? Excuse me, Craig, what do you want the players to do? Be silent? I don't know what you mean. What do I want them to do? I want them to go out on the pitch and play like they give a fuck. That's what I want them to do. I want them to go out there and play with passion. I want them to go out there and play like they actually do want to keep the manager in a job. And by the way, Salah has been fucking silent. So if we want to talk about people being radio silent, where's Salah? What's he got to say on this? I'll tell you what, nothing. Because he doesn't need a new contract. Carragher, after Liverpool's loss to PSV. I love Mo Salah, I respect him, but let's be honest, his legs are gone. He's been shocking the past few weeks. When Liverpool needed leadership and big moments, he wasn't there. You can't call yourself the talisman and then go missing in the biggest games of the season. He ain't wrong. He ain't wrong. So, Moosey, if that's an attempt at humour, try harder, mate. Because, yeah, that's just nonsense. Why certainly not Mancini? Because he's dodgy. Look at how he was getting paid by Man City. He's part of the football problem for me. That's why no Mancini. And why De Zerbi? Because he's playing at a club that's given Mason Greenwood the time of fucking day. Straightforward, mate. Mason Greenwood wouldn't be any dressing room that I was a coach in, ever. Wouldn't set foot in the training ground. That's why no De Zerbi. Because, again, no class. Not a go at you, bro. I'm just answering your questions. No class. We're in 3 months. Man United have become in 10 years. Did you see Arna's body language, Craig? 4th goal. He's done. He looked lost, bro. He looked lost. And it's sad. Because again, I want to emphasise, nobody wants this. Nobody wants to be saying it. But I feel it's on me to speak up. Because somebody needs to try to address this properly. And not just put fingers in the ears and go with vibes. It's... Like you said, Gary, look at him on that 4th goal. His expression, man, he was lost. And it's so sad to see. I don't want to see Arna looking that lost. I don't want to see any Liverpool manager looking that lost. But I really just don't understand what continuing on is going to achieve. I don't. I really, really don't. It just feels like we're intentionally waiting for stuff to get worse. I don't know, man. Slot paying Ibu and Salah will be his downfall. So it's not even so much as playing Salah, Peter. It's not holding him to account. Like, I think everybody can understand to some extent why you'd keep trying with Salah. But when you've got a situation last night, right in front of the manager, I might add, 15 yards in front of him, Mohamed Salah stands there while the player from PSV Eindhoven strolls past them and they end up scoring. He couldn't be bothered. And any manager that has a pair would have taken him off then and there. Immediately. It shouldn't even be a debate. That's disgraceful. That's lazy. That's not 400 grand a week. And by the way, it's not just me that thinks that way. Didi Hamann on RTE Sports, so the Irish broadcaster over here. What Salah did for that second PSV goal, I think Slot had one chance to take him off straight away because what he did was disgraceful. Again, he's not wrong. So, this is why I don't want the players to be coming out waffling. Because that's all it is now, is waffle. It's bullshit. It's pure nonsense. The proof of the pudding is out there on the pitch. And they ain't doing it. They ain't cutting it. They ain't standing up. They ain't stepping up and they ain't leading anything. So these leaders need to start taking some actual responsibility or standing aside. Because it can't go on. It just can't. There's nothing positive about this. Nothing. Slot can't handle big club pressure. Last year, lower expectation. The Diaz stuff is hollow because he's the head coach. West Ham United will be his final game. So it feels like to me that they're willing to sacrifice more points. Just sacrifice more points. Just for what? So we can get to like a ridiculously level of bad? So the confidence in the dressing room can be dented even further? Because you telling me that Rio Ngamoa, Fede Chiesa, that they're happy with this? You telling me that Joe Gomez is happy seeing Konate playing ahead of him? There's no accountability. The manager hasn't got the balls. He doesn't. He's afraid of Salah. Jesus is with me. Love the content and your passion. Thank you. Look, as I said, I take no pleasure in any of this. It's so hard to come on here and stream knowing we're all upset. We're all frustrated. I know what I'm going to be in for in the chat because people are downhearted. I get it, but I feel like I need to let people vent because certainly I need to vent. Modern day footballers and their chat GPT social media statuses, watching from down the road and Rush, keep up the great work. Thank you, man. Appreciate that, Rocky. It's just waffle, isn't it? Like, it really is just waffle from them. They had the chance last night. Like, let's think about this. The last two games, he had 2 weeks to prepare for Sean Dyche. 2 weeks, and we were battered 3-0 at home. He then gets to play PSV Eindhoven, who we should know inside out. You know, he knows his Dutch football, so he knows how they're going to set up and come to play. And what he does is put the same failing players out and expect something different. And he keeps saying, when it was this, we nearly did this. Nearly isn't worth a bollocks, Arna. When it was 2-1, we nearly made it 2-2. Did we? We lost 4-1. That's what I remember. After losing 3-0, after losing 3-0 again, 10 conceded, 1 scored in 3 games. Bottom half of the league. Outside the top 8 places in the Champions League. Threw away the League Cup. Tell Miss Haney to do one. She's a Man United fan. Do one, Miss Haney. You're right. She's a United fan. She should do one. Grim Reaper said, I love Mo for what he's done for us, but I don't think Slot wants to deal with a Salah drop if he's benched. That's one thing I don't like about Mo. Same as me. And I've said it over the years. Whenever Mo needs something or needs due a contract, a cloud comes over the club. You know I'm not wrong with this. Go back over the years. Mane couldn't celebrate an AFCON win because it might upset Salah. Mane couldn't celebrate qualifying for the World Cup because it might upset Salah. He's sitting there having lunch with PSG's president when we played Bournemouth, and we're all supposed to just sit back and accept this shit as okay. He stood there and looked as the player walked past him. Stood there and looked. Couldn't be arsed. And that's okay if you're banging in 25, 30 goals a season. But he ain't doing that. So like we've said before, you allow some stuff slide in life and football in any industry while someone's performing. But when they're not performing, then it becomes a big problem. Do you think Rio left wing, Endo centre back, Robbo left back, Chiesa right wing? At this point, honestly, I'll give you a quick 11 that I'd put out for the team this week. You can make an argument to play Ramsey, by the way, at right back. But here's what I'd do real quickly. Alisson in goal because he's back training today, which is good news. Right back, I'd put Joe Gomez. Right centre back, I'd put Endo. Left centre back, I'd put Virgil. Left back, I'd put Robertson. In midfield, and hear me out on this, I'd go for Gravenberch, Dom and Jones. Because Macca's been way off it. The fight just isn't there for Macca. So I'd give Jones the run there. Because at least you know he's going to play for the badge. You might not rate him as much, but he's going to put in a shift and he's not going to hide on the pitch. And then up front, I'd put Chiesa on the right, I'd put Isak through the middle, and Ekitike on the left. And if that manager actually had any real desire to hold people to account, that's roughly what we'd be looking at here. You can make your argument for Ngamoa to be in there, no problem. You can make your argument for Calvin Ramsey to be in there, no problem. But what you can't make an argument for is Salah or Konate starting this game. That shouldn't even be a debate at this point. Because if he keeps doing that, if he keeps playing Salah and Konate, he's just rewarding mediocrity. Peter, thanks for staying through the tough times, my man. It really helps listening to somebody who really understands. Ibu and Salah, just the tip of the iceberg. They are, of course. Look, I'm not trying to say everything is Salah's fault or everything is Ibu's fault. I'm not trying to say that at all. But what I am trying to say is, Ibu thinks of himself as a leader. A leader. Remember that. His words. What's he leading? Apart from us on a fucking merry dance. Salah's supposed to be the talisman. As Carragher said, disappeared. Doesn't want to work hard. Doesn't want to front up the camera. Doesn't want to do anything. But keeps getting played. My go Craig would suit a beard. I wish I could grow one, dude. I can't grow a beard. If I could grow a beard on there, I'd have one. I'm not even joking. I'd love a beard. You know, people often joke to me, oh, Turkey, go over to Turkey, get the hair done. Well, I'm not actually bald, but the irony is, if I did go to Turkey, yeah, I'd get hair work done, but it'd be on my face. I'd love a beard. Can't grow one. I reckon my son would be able to grow a beard before me. Bear with me, folks. I think I missed the super chat, so I'm just going back through it. We've done that one. Done that one. Done that one. Jamie. Sorry, Jamie. I missed your one, mate. Hi, Craig. Hope you're well. I'm in utter shock with what I'm seeing. We're doing the same thing week in and week out, expecting a different result. I honestly can't believe what I'm seeing on the pitch. Well, can I say thank you firstly, Jamie, for being honest and sincere? Because what you've described there, sir, I think probably sums up most of us at the moment and how we're feeling. I can't say anything, mate, because you're right. Every word you've said is right. He's done the same stuff every week and thinks it's going to be different, and then trots out some deluded nonsense to try to justify that until this happened, we were in the game. You know, last week it was first 30 minutes we were good, and then they only created 4 scoring opportunities, right, Arna, but they scored 3 of them. We had 20-something shots and did fuck all. Then yesterday, again, he's trying to come out, well, it was almost 2-2 with this, but it wasn't, mate. You lost. They went away with their tail between their legs. And by the way, I want to just praise the PSV Eindhoven fans here for a second. They were brilliant. I watched the game back on LFC TV last night after I finished all my work. They put it on after midnight, so I watched it, and they were absolutely top-notch. The banter was brilliant. The singing of "You'll Always Look on the Bright Side of Life" and all. So I want to commend them, because I'm sure they had that's a huge European evening for them. And over the past 2 seasons, they've beaten us 7-3, home and away, aggregate over those 2. So I want to give them their credit, because they certainly enjoyed their trip to Liverpool. And I didn't speak about them last night, and I should have. Does Craig think Arna Verge actually watches his stream? Did I ever say I did? Did I ever say I did? And by the way, do you think they don't? Do you? Because I tell you what, I reckon some of them do. Now, I don't know that, but I reckon they do, you know. I know the club certainly keep an eye on it. But either way, when I'm addressing the camera like that, I'm not really talking to Virgil. I'm kind of just talking in a rhetorical sense, really. Yeah, it's just my way of venting, mate. You know, just my way of responding to a quote that I see. Done that one. Done that one. Done that one. this one. After the first 3 league games, I was feck Arna. He's been found out by the opponents and he has no response. Didn't expect things to fall apart this way though. Love Liverpool and your channel forever. Thank you, mate. You know, when you're hearing stuff like teams know how to play against us and we don't have an answer to a low block, when you're hearing that from your manager after 450 million spent, talking about small squads as if he doesn't have options. Again, I'm going to say, our bench had 3 players less on it than theirs. And they're the away side. Our bench had Rio, who we didn't want to play, Gomez, who we said was injured, and Chiesa, who got garbage minutes. And 2 goalkeepers. That's the depth we have at this football club after that success and that investment. It's crazy. And before anybody starts talking about injuries, well, injuries are going to happen more when you keep playing the same people and you don't trust the rest of the squad. When you keep putting out the same players, that's where you're going to get injuries because they're just playing over and over and over again. Itachi. If we manage to win versus West Ham, I'm afraid all shouting this is the turning point. 1 win doesn't ignore 9 losses up the Reds somehow. It doesn't. It doesn't, mate. Because it will come unstuck again. So let me just ask this. Rather than asking, do you think he should be fired? Because I think we have a pretty straightforward answer on that. I'm going to ask it slightly differently. So I want to ask you, can Slot turn this around? I'll ask it that way. It's probably a politer way of phrasing the same thing. But can he turn this around? So, can I just take you guys back to while we were in the international break? The last international break in November. Do you remember the conversations that we were having during that international break? Do you remember what the media were writing during that international break? That Liverpool had the easiest run of fixtures coming up of anybody in the Premier League. And we've come in from that international break into what's supposed to be the confidence building time of the season, where we had 19th place Nottingham Forest, PSV Eindhoven, and we've been trounced twice in the confidence building part of the season. Now, if he can't do it against what has been described as the easiest run, what fucking hope has he got to turn this around and play the big boys? I'll tell you what hope, none. Because there's no fear factor when we come onto the pitch. Everybody is going to be up for playing against us. And all we're doing now is treading water until whoever makes the decision to fire him makes that decision. How bad do you want it to get? How much of a laughing stock do you want your club to become? How many fans do you need to see walking out at the end of games heartbroken and after pissing their money up against the wall? How much more does it take? Because surely this is enough. Ever tried oral minute? No, never. If we're talking about the beard, dude, no, I've never tried anything. To be honest with you, I've not tried that with it. I just kind of accept it. It is what it is, you know. World of Naturalist, how are you, my friend? Said, can't people see what happened after wins Villa and Real Madrid? I think those were the blips and the losses are the norm. Do you know what, though? Last night was one of those games that Arna's praised himself for at times. And what I mean by that is, PSV didn't come and sit with a low block. PSV didn't come and not try to play through the lines. They didn't come to try and not have a go. They played a game of football that was open and expansive, where we should have been in our element. We should have been, that should have been heaven to our players last night. Space to exploit all over the place. And they still couldn't do it. At home, under the lights, with a packed Anfield behind them. Couldn't do it. So we'll get a low block again this weekend. And we'll get low blocks and we'll be told can't deal with them again. So which one is it? He just seems to have no answer to anything now. And the reason is, and it has to be, the players are not listening. The players do not believe in him. Whatever they say publicly is irrelevant. Their actions are showing us that they don't believe in him. Itachi said, my feeling is that he starts Ibu and Salah versus West Ham. I don't think he'll start Konate because he mentioned something today about Joe Gomez probably playing at the weekend. So I don't think he starts Konate, to be fair. On the Salah one, I'd be amazed if he doesn't. Clinto said, what makes me sick is none of the pundits want to talk about our real issues. It needs to be focused on that Slot can be sacked. Van Bronckhorst with his Dutch tactics. Do you know, I sat there last night and I seen Gerard McManaman talking about it being too early to sack the manager. These are guys who held themselves to the highest of standards, who achieved great things in the game. They know better. Gerrard's been fired from jobs for a lot less. And he won the league last year stuff. I find that absolutely tin pot nonsense. Are we a tin pot small club who win one league title and then that's it, we switch off, we go partying? Because like I said last season, the end to that season was a shambles. There were no standards and everybody was on the beach, but people were like, it's okay, they've won the league. And I tried to warn, you can't switch this shit on and off. You either have standards that are maintained or they're not. And now those standards are on the floor. So this was Carragher for PSV's third goal. This is what he said, word for word. Oh my God, Konate. Watch Konate here. Oh my God. I fucking had enough. That Konate, that's a sackable offence for fucking picking him. Should be sacked for that. Jamie Carragher. Today, Jamie writes, Arna has a week to save his job. Hypocrite. Grow a pair, Jamie. Sit up. Say what you said when the cameras weren't running. Because that's how you really feel. That's how I feel. That's how most of the people here feel. That's how the match-going fans feel. Don't worry about having to interview Arna or being the nice guy. If you care about the club, stand up for the club and say it as it is. He needs to be fired. He's been trampled on and walked over by players. And he doesn't have the backbone to do it himself. Be honest. Arne Slot on our pressure that we're having. A lot of pressure if you work at a top club. Even more so if you're losing more than the club is used to. There's always pressure. Last year, it was to win the league. No, Arne. It was to win the league, the Champions League, the FA Cup and the League Cup. Don't just cherry pick the one that you fucking won. Then he went on to say, maybe my job is easier because I don't have to play. It's hard for every player when we go down after 5 minutes and play well in the first half and then we concede in the second half. So we get knock after knock after knock. So we keep fighting. It's what we did so well last year and it's the minimum we expect over 90 minutes. He says all of that and then goes, there you go, Konate. You go play. There you go, Salah. You go play. Because I've said all the stuff that sounds good, but I don't have the balls to back it up about these standards and fighting. None of them are fighting, Arna. They've down tools. Arne Slot on his future said this. We've had the same conversations as we've had since I've been here. We fight on and we try to improve. That is what we all try. The convos have been the same in the last 18 months. Let down by the players? No, not at all. Did you just hear what I said? Let down by the players? No, not at all. This is fucking delusion. Not let down by the players. Are you having a laugh? Although, I do agree that our standards, the team, have not been at the standard we're used to. So you're not being let down by the players, but one fucking sentence later, you say the standards aren't what we're used to. The focus is on the team, not the individuals. If the opposite is happening, we look at the team, not the individuals. You start by pulling out the frauds. You start by removing Konate. You start by showing people that there is accountability. By benching Salah. By dragging him off the pitch as the PSV Eindhoven player leads a merry dance past him on his way to goal. It's not easy to say what I can do different. Yes, it fucking is. You can act like you give a shit. You can act like you're big enough for this job. You can act like you have standards. If you win, lose or draw, you reflect on decisions you do week in, week out. Maybe you do them more if you lose. We tried to find the answers. We need to win a game. In the end, it's about doing what this club is about. Keep fighting. We have to fight together. Blah, blah, fucking blah. It's all just waffle. I know you don't celebrate across the pond, but happy Thanksgiving to you. To everyone that is celebrating, sincerely, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you all have a lovely day with your families. And I hope it's a day filled full of happiness and love to anyone that is celebrating Thanksgiving. I don't celebrate it obviously over this side of the pond, but I will be taking in the NFL games tonight, my man. So yeah, wishing you a happy Thanksgiving. Leona said if they're not getting rid of Arna, they at least need to bench Salah and Konate because they're playing atrocious at the minute. You don't agree that we're like PSG in possession? I certainly don't agree we're like PSG in possession, no. Because they know what to do with the ball. We're just moving around. There's nothing PSG-ish about the way we're playing, mate. Nothing. Nuno should put us out of our misery on Sunday. If West Ham have anything about themselves, they beat us. We're there for the taking on Sunday. All they need to do is score. That'll be it. Get the goal and then watch the heads drop. They'll fight for a little bit, then they'll make a mistake and it'll be rinse and repeat. Here's what I don't get. Right now, as we sit here, it's salvageable. The season is savable. It feels like they want us to have too much work to do. Do it now. Do it while we are only a few points away from the top four. We're closer to the relegation zone than we are to Arsenal. And now we've pretty much guaranteed that we're going to have an extra 2 games by not getting into the top 8 in the Champions League. Because do you think we're going to wait to Inter Milan to beat them? I don't. A trip to Marseille is going to be a difficult one as well. That stadium's going to be bouncing. And then we finish with Carragher at home, which you would have to think we should be able to win. Is it bad that I actually knew we were losing yesterday? How have we gone from Klopp beating everyone under Arna? I'm checked out and accept defeat. So, Sander, yesterday, mate, I came into yesterday's game last night so confident that we were going to win. I really felt like this was going to be a win. I didn't think it was going to solve the problems, but I swear to God, hand on heart, I thought we were going to win that game for a few reasons. One, he should know that team pretty well. He should know what to expect from that team. And somehow we found a way not to win. And not just not win, but once again be absolutely trounced at home. Back to back by 3 goals. At home. It's a disaster when I stop watching to make us win and cooking up a storm during matches to help us win doesn't work. Happy Thanksgiving, which is happier than when we're not playing. Much love to you, Dave, as always, my friend. I hope you're having a good Thanksgiving, sir. Dean is okay. He said, Ekatike, how long is he out now? it seems like there's good news on that front, Dean. It feels like it was just a back spasm and he should be available. Arnott didn't seem worried about it when he spoke about it. So it does look like we could have had a bit of luck on that front. Paul Beer, how are we, Paul? Said BBC One News, Liverpool's worst run in 71 years. In 71 years. And they're still talking about not sacking him. Do people not get the irony of saying that we're a club that exists to win trophies? A club that wants to do the right things and win. You don't get medals for being the nice guys. Arna's had more than enough time. He's had weeks, 3 international breaks to figure this out. And it's gone backwards. And we're getting worse. Games we were losing by 1 goal late now, we're losing by 3. How bad does it have to get? Big Man said, hi Craig, I hope you're well. As a kid, I fell in love with Jurgen's team and his philosophy. There isn't a philosophy for us to love anymore. That's very true. Something Jamie Carragher said the other day kind of stuck in my head, and he was talking about the bond, and there doesn't seem to be the same bond from the fans to the manager. And look, I can only give you my take on this, and I certainly don't speak for every Liverpool fan, but I'll give you my take on this. I found it really hard to connect with Arna. And I've said this through good and bad times on the channel. Because he's too laid back. He's too lackadaisical. That doesn't work for me. That's not the type of person that I respond to or connect with. He needs to look like he cares. I'm sure he does. I'm sure inside he does care. But when you have a manager standing there looking lost, as the bench next to him celebrating their 4th goal at Anfield, and this is in the same few days that you've just been beaten 3-0 by 19th place Nottingham Forest, before a 3-0 loss to Manchester City. I just don't know anymore how he's still in a job. I can't, if I felt we'd been unlucky, or it looked like it was turning, or there were things that were starting to look brighter, he's now trying to salvage 10, 15 minute little sections of games to justify his existence. And people said it earlier on, he has no plan B. None. Was anything said in the meeting? Some people believe he has a week to save his job. Some people think he's not under pressure yet. I don't really know what the actual lay of the land is, mate. I don't know if anybody does. But this is a really interesting story from Caught Offside and Indie Kayla. And I don't know if this is true or not. And again, I don't know if anybody does know. But if it is true, it's a real worry. So this piece here said Richard Hughes reportedly overruled Arne Slot regarding the sale of Luis Diaz to Bayern Munich in July. Slot didn't want to lose the player and had even been pushing for him to be handed a new contract. But Hughes viewed the transfer offer from Bayern as appealing. Now, there's a couple of things about this that I want to address. When we sold Luis Diaz to Bayern Munich, the transfer fee was absolutely acceptable. Whether you thought he should have been sold or not, the transfer fee was acceptable. But let's not forget the narrative and the conversation afterwards. It's that we're not going to go out and bring in anybody else other than Cody Gakpo because we don't want to block the pathway for young Rio Engamoa, who the club have every faith in. So we've gone and sold a player, and now we have one player in that left position because the manager, who doesn't want to block the pathway for Rio, won't play Rio. How does that make any sense? 6 forwards won't play Rio, won't play Chiesa, Isak not fit. Salah stinking the gaff up. He's making his small squad smaller with his own pig-headedness. But as I said, I struggle to believe that that's true, that story. But the whole Diaz situation felt strange for a very long time. You know, people kept saying to me, he's on low money, give him a new contract. And I kept saying, you're right, he should be getting a new contract. But there was never any indication that he was going to get a new contract. Why that was, I can't say for certain. But what I can say for certain is they didn't replace him. Nor have they given Rio the opportunity to replace him. They have once again just reverted to type and sat there on their hands waiting for things to get worse. They can write off a season and still get paid their big bonuses and huge money. The fans who are in a cost of living crisis, who are struggling to get by and are still attending games of football, they can't write off their seasons. They can't just slap their hands together and say, oh well, we go again next year, because they've spent their money on their season tickets, on their train fares, on their bus fares, on their flights. This is doing damage to the club, to the fans. It's becoming toxic. They cannot just sit still and do nothing. Paul Joyce said, Arne Slot says Alisson trained today with the team. Florian Wirtz's final day of rehab tomorrow and could train with the team on Saturday. Hugo Ekitike is not a big issue following his back spasm. That's a bit of info there on that one. Chris Shaw said, I remember articles last season that Slot was growing frustrated by Diaz. Not sure if these articles is a piece of revisionism. I agree with you though. Slot's treatment of Rio and Fede is shite. It is. Because he hasn't tried everything to change it round. Because he hasn't given these guys a go. And I'm not talking about giving Fede 20 minutes when we're 2 goals down. I'm talking about giving him 5 games in a row to play to see if he can actually do something different. To see if he can have a spark, change things. At the meeting, the big question was, does Craig stop ranting yet? No, and nor will I. Nor will I, mate. You can call me rant all I want. I don't give a fuck. I'm saying what people think. I'm saying the truth. So I don't give a shit if you think I'm ranting or not. I couldn't give a damn. What I care about is the football club that I love, the football club that I follow religiously, being a laughingstock. That's what I care about. So you can think whatever the fuck you want of me. But this football club needs to sort this mess out because we're a laughingstock right now. Where was I? Itachi said Salah's time is gone. Doesn't help us anymore. Look at the future. Wirtz should receive all freedom alongside Dom, Isak and Ekitike up front. I want to speak about Ryan Gravenberch in a moment, if I may, because he's somebody that hasn't really come up for discussion too much so far this season. Konate better not be in that first 11 on Sunday, said Tipsy Dipsy. James said, I want to back Slot, but how can I when he keeps trying to put our best midfielder right back out of position? There's just a few things, James, that I can't get my head around. This is the second game in a row that he's named Joe Gomez on the bench and then told us he's not fit. What purpose does that serve? Surely there's kids in the 21s who could have at least been on that bench. Surely we could fill out that bench a little bit somehow. But he put 2 goalkeepers and a player who was unfit on the bench, limiting his own options. Gerrard as assistant coach if they keep Slot. Look, the only way I'd see Gerrard in there is in a short-term role after Arne is fired until they find a longer-term manager. But with the caveat that the job is absolutely not going to be his. Remember Somerville at Anfield for Leeds now. He's a West Ham player, said Real Johnny Sins. The Red King said if the performances were there, and they were just not getting the results, I could understand. But we look lost and have no clue how to play football, and it's getting worse. It is getting worse. And we're not just saying that for like noise. The results are going backwards. It's shocking, isn't it? So we asked, can Slot turn this around? We've nearly 1,900 votes, so we'll leave it go a little bit longer. If you could, please do have your say. Let us know what you think on that one. What system do you think would make us more solid? At this point, Thomas, I don't think there is anything that can be done systematic, personnel-wise, anything. I don't think there is anything Arne can do to change this. Now, if you bring in somebody else, and I actually believe they can inspire the players, or they can fire them up a little bit, then there are different ways to look at this. 4-4-2 seems to be an option. Because we don't need Salah's width because he's not playing well. Give us our 2 strikers up top. Play with 4 in midfield, 4 at the back. Go out there in the market in January. Bring in somebody, an actual central midfielder who's a number 6. Put them in alongside whoever else you want. And move from there. Or go out there and change the system altogether. And go to a 3-5-2 system. Or go to a 4-2-2-2. There's so many things that we can do. The 4-2-2-2 probably makes more sense with the players that we have. You know, we've got 10s. We've got good players. So you could have your deeper lying midfielders. Let's say McAllister and Gravenberch. You could have Wirtz and Szoboszlai ahead. And then Ekitike and Isak. There is things we can do. But again, I don't think any magical formation thing here with Arne at the minute is going to change it. A Dan on his bike said, might have my tinfoil hat on here, but I wondered whether the Diaz story came out try and win Arne Slot a bit of favour with the fans. I mean, look, it's not out of the realms of possibility to think that people brief stories to certain journalists, but I really wouldn't have a clue, mate. Because the whole story feels a little bit weird, Dan, you know? Because it doesn't really put anybody in a good light there. So yeah, I don't know, mate. It's like people often say to me, do you think that there's a clause in Salah's contract that he has to play? I can't believe that any club of our stature would be too tin pot to put that in, or would put that in and be that beta. I can't for 1 second believe that's in any contract. So yeah, like on that, mate, I don't know, but you can't rule anything out. Toby Bedford said 4-2-2-2 would be class. Grav and Maka, and then Flo and Dom, Hugo Isak. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, mate. Let your fullbacks provide the width, and then you've got 2 people there to help out your back 4. Yes, you'd be a bit more narrow, but the width isn't exactly doing much for us at the minute. Especially when we're playing in the inside channel a lot of the time anyway. What solution do you have for Slot, if any? Quit. Resign. That's the only solution. Sorry, Andy, I don't mean that to be blunt, mate, but there is no solution for him because he can't do it. His words aren't cutting it. He's not inspiring players. He's not putting the fear of God into players. He's just making excuses and letting them walk all over him. And it looks weak. What is actually the standards for this club? So Slot wins the next 2 games and then suddenly he'll be a good manager. Really not firing him till now doesn't make any sense. None of it, Hussein, makes sense to me, mate. Like we've said, we can go through so many different stats that have been doing the rounds over the last few days. From somebody said worst start in 73 years, something like that. Then we've got we back-to-back 3-0 defeats for the first time since 53, and now you can throw another defeat by 3 on top of that. We're bottom half of the league table. We're -2 on goal difference. We're conceding an obscene amount of goals. We can't defend set pieces. There's not much to be upbeat about at the minute. Norbert FC said, my regret is that I spent €800 for Sky, DAZN, and RTL, plus my monthly subscriptions in advance by saving the yearly deals. I can't cancel. I haven't watched it over a month. Depressing to lose games and money. Well, look, a lot of people are in a similar position. You know, I pay around £200 a month between my broadband and Sky and stuff like that for the football. DAZN accounts, Amazon accounts. I get you. Spent, not exaggerating, let's say about 1,500 quid to go over to watch Liverpool Man United, my bucket list game that I've wanted to do my whole life, only to see us put in a tepid nonsense performance and be beaten at home by a team who are themselves short of confidence but outfought us that day. I feel your pain, mate. You know, the amount of people I've seen saying this was my first time in X amount of years, or this was my first time, or brought the kids to their first game. Everyone's leaving the stadium frustrated, sad. You know, no one's being inspired here. Kids, next generation aren't being inspired. Fans inside the stadium aren't being inspired. They're not getting nothing back from the players. It's just flat. Our problem seems so easy to fix, far slow. How much would it cost you to get rid of Slot, and be realistic, how much would you lose in profit? They reckon, guys, about 10 million. There was an article the other day that was talking about his salary being something like 7 million a year, something like that. And they reckon about 10 million was one estimation to sack him. Now, that shouldn't even be a consideration for us because we're not in the same kind of financial peril that you guys were in. Now, I'm not saying 10 million is not 10 million. Ultimately, it's a lot of dough. But, you know, how much would not getting Champions League football cost? How much would not getting through a few more rounds in this season's Champions League cost? How many less shirt sales? How many less all-red subscriptions? You know, how appealing are those very expensive hospitality tickets going to be when the team's stinking the gaff up? Do you know the amount of people, guys, that have said to me, and you may get similar in your own fan base, that they don't want to go to the hospitality games that they've paid for the new year? They already feel like it's a waste of their time, and they're heartbroken about it, and they've shelled out hard money. It's not cheap. These hospitality tickets was the only way for a lot of people to get there if they don't have a connection or if they're not lucky in the ballot. And they're getting served up dross. Flat, soulless dross. So that 10 million should be 10 million that they think needs to be spent. I like what Curtis Jones said, we need to press. I've been really impressed, Aaron, by a lot of what Curtis Jones and Andy Robertson have had to say, mate. Curtis Jones speaking about being a fan and a player. And I say the same thing about Curtis all the time. People give him a load of stick and I think, right, look, he might not be the best ever player to play for this club. But I tell you what he doesn't do. He doesn't hide on a football pitch. He doesn't shy away from trying to get the ball. You know, he's not like Mohamed Salah out there hiding, not wanting to track back and run. He cares. So I'll take that every day of the week over somebody like Salah who thinks he can stand there while a PSV Eindhoven player slaps past him, or Konate who thinks he forgets how to kick a football and jumps over it. It's, yeah, tough. Right, so 76% of people don't feel Arne can turn it around. And I'd love to know in the 24% how many of those were Liverpool fans who were just, you know, and I get it. I'd do the same in your position. Peter said, do you think that by continuing to play Mo is going to tarnish his legacy at the club? I know you can reference stats, goals, etc., but what's happening now until his contract expires will remain current? So here's what I don't want to happen, Peter. I don't want the situation here with Mo to get toxic, which I fear it will. Because if you drop him, you know what's coming in the media. You know the articles, the Salah FC fanboys, they're all going to be there. And you'll start seeing stories linking him with, you know, I could get 8 billion quid to go over to Saudi and all this other stuff. At this point, There needs to be an honest conversation at the club. And there needs to be a way figured out to move past Salah. And I said this, by the way, 2 weeks ago. On the stream, I said we need to look to the future. This isn't anything disrespectful to him, but he's not doing it. Father Time has caught up with him. Even Carragher has to admit now his legs are gone. So what is there to be gained from continuing to put trust in a player who absolutely has been incredible at this football club? But this is the balance somebody has to strike. This is the difference between Slot and a Sir Alex Ferguson. He knew when it was time and started to bridge that gap and started to ease him out. Arnott doesn't seem to have the bottle to do that. So we need to look to the future. The team shouldn't be built around Mohamed Salah anymore. The team should be built around Wirtz, Ekitike, Isak, the future. And if Mo can fit into that and find a way to contribute to it, cool. But he cannot be a guaranteed starter anymore. He just can't. He's not doing it. And that's not through any of us not caring about Mo. This is just the truth. And sometimes the truth isn't nice. But this is where we're at. Your 4-4-2's appearance was amazing. Yeah, it was a pleasant surprise. It was one smile I did have today in amongst a lot of the frustration. Like, I mean, I haven't slept yet. I haven't slept at all since yesterday. I didn't even eat yesterday at all. I know, look at me, it's ironic, but I didn't. Sat there looking at my dinner after the game, couldn't even eat it. Felt sick, physically sick. My head's pounding. And I dare say I'm not alone. Because you're thinking, something has to change. How can we change it? What can he do? But you keep hearing the same noises from the club, the same bollocks, full faith, back into the board, all this shite that means nothing. Because it's not going to get better. It's just like a terminal illness for your favourite pet that you're going to have to watch that pet fade away and suffer, rather than just putting it out of its misery and relieving the pain. Arna needs to be put out of his misery. Somebody needs to do the decent thing and step in. If we sack Slot right now, a caretaker or a new manager comes in with a different system, training routine, etc., which could cause further issues. So, or, you've gone to the complete negative end of it. What if they go to the complete other end of it? You're playing the what ifs here. What we're talking about is factual, which is he's stinking up the gaff and it isn't working and it hasn't worked. So, negative hypotheticals are just pointless. I'll tell you what somebody new would do when they come in. They would inspire the players. They would start holding them to account. Imagine putting Steven Gerrard into that dressing room now and having him give a team talk. You can't think you're bigger than him. You can't think you can domineer over him. He is going to command your respect and he is going to hold you to a standard. I'm not saying he's the greatest coach in the world, but I am saying he's not going to put up with the nonsense that's being put up with right now by Arna. So, it's not going to get better, my man. The analogy I used the other night was, and again, it's crass, but I don't know how else to phrase it. You're going out with a fella or a girl, and you like sex, but you don't really fancy them too much anymore. But it's better than having a wank. So you keep with the person until somebody better comes along, and then you'll probably cheat on the person. Just do the right thing. Have a wank. Don't hurt the person. At this point, we're just stringing them along. It's how bad does it have to get? How bad before we act? Because it is just a matter of time. He is not going to turn this around. He might find a win or two here or there, but he is not going to suddenly start inspiring players that he can't inspire now. It isn't going to happen. So, if we're going to play the hypothetical game, let's play the hypothetical game in the middle and not at either end of it. Somebody can come in and get them doing the basics. Working hard. The real Johnny Sin said, even Leicester sacked Ranieri after winning leagues. All clubs do it, mate. You know? All clubs do it. But apparently we want to be the nice guys. You think Curtis wants Arna out based on his words? Look, Oliver, excuse me. I don't know Curtis Jones, but look, I can say this to you. I have to think that there were some people in that dressing room who think otherwise about Arna, who just don't rate him at the minute. I have to think that. I'm not saying they all do, because I'm sure some still want to work for him. But it doesn't feel like his words are getting through at the minute. The Reds said, sorry, Craig, but I totally disagree. Steven Gerrard is not ready to manage Liverpool. I think you probably misheard or something what I said. Because every time, mate, I've spoken about Steven Gerrard, I've said short-term, stopgap, very clear you're not getting the job. Because I agree with you, mate. He's absolutely not ready to manage this club. But he is ready to hold standards. So that's what I'm saying. Arna can't motivate these guys or put the fear of God into them. Steven Gerrard could walk in and do that. But you are right. He is not the right man to manage this team in the longer term. But I would argue that right now, he would at least get a performance or two out of these guys. And they'd have to listen to him. Because he's Mr. Liverpool. He's been there. He's done it. Now, he hasn't won the league, granted. But he's got the presence to stand in that dressing room and hold people to account. Wasted the Goat said, how long before a relationship turns toxic with Slot? I don't know what you mean by what relationship. For me, look, I just look at it at this point, like, I have no ill will towards Arna. He seems like a very nice man. Genuinely seems like a decent fella. And none of us take any pleasure in talking about this in this way. I hope you can see how much it hurts me. You can see in the chat, nobody wants this to be the case. But when you keep seeing the same things over and over again, and people are still expecting a different outcome, but it's getting, not just even staying level, it's getting worse. It's gone downhill. I don't know. The reason I'm so frustrated is I don't know what the board are seeing or hoping is going to change in the short term. That's what really frustrates me here, is I really don't know what they're basing this decision not to fire him on, other than hope, or him being a nice fella, or them getting on. I don't know. But like I said, this was supposed to be the easy run, and the first two we've lost by 3 goals in the easy run. Now, all of a sudden, some people in the media are trying to say, well, the easy run really starts now, because it's West Ham away, then it's Leeds. Now, the easy run started 2 games ago with 19th place Forest at home, who we owed one to for beating us last year. But then they came and beat us by more this year. Then he goes and plays against a team that he knows inside out from the Netherlands, and he's absolutely outwitted again, and we were beaten by 3 goals in the easy run. Chris Thorne, thank you so much for your super chat, Chris. Really appreciate you. Hi, Craig. Only just come on, but the subject of Carragher, he'll never side with fans on anything. As he and Fowler bought Melwood from FSG and then sold it back to LFG for a tidy profit, he won't criticise them. I don't know if you've seen my video from earlier on today, but it was basically titled Carragher the Hypocrite, because he's telling all of us, and again in his Guardian column, I think it is today, or the Telegraph, I can't remember which one he writes for, he's saying that Arna's a week to save his job. Last night, when he wasn't in front of the TV cameras, it was, oh my God, Konate, watch Konate here, oh my God, I fucking had enough, that Konate, that's a sackable offence for fucking picking Konate, he should be sacked for that. That's Jamie Carragher. The same one who's telling us that it's premature to sack the manager. The same one that's telling us that it's laughable to talk about sacking the manager. But when he's in my position, in the heat of the moment, he's saying the very fucking same things I'm saying. But then when he calms down a little bit and thinks about it and puts his Sky hat on, all of a sudden the standards are different. So this is what I'm talking about. Hypocrisy. Because that was the real feelings when he was talking about Konate. Because he's right. He's right when he said that. So why be insincere then afterwards? That's what you feel. That's what you think. Own it, like I do. Because people call me an embarrassment. That to me is embarrassing and duplicitous. At least I'm saying how I feel. All the time. Consistently. Not backing down. So yeah, I don't know, Chris, mate. But it just does my head in. And then you've got some other journalists writing the same type of crap. 15 paragraphs about why it's absolutely shambolic. The players aren't playing. The tactics are shit. 15 paragraphs of that. And then at the end, but any talk of sacking the manager yet is premature. Why? Because we won a league title? Are we that tin pot? That one league title, all of a sudden, that's it? Mountain climbed? What happened to retaining it? What happened to going back to back? What happened to building a dynasty? All of a sudden, that doesn't matter? There were some other comments that I don't seem to have here at the minute. And the comments were Carragher talking about the Ibiza trip and the Dubai trip. I don't have them on me. Maybe Keane or somebody could send them on to me. But have a look at them. Because he then calls out that. Small-time behaviour. Partying while the season's still on. And people were willing to let this slide last year. I wasn't. All this revisionism from others is exactly what I was saying last year. And I was getting derided and slagged off for. You've won the league, calm down. No. I've been in enough dressing rooms. I've been around football my whole life. I know human nature. You cannot switch things on and off. You either go out there and play like a professional, play with 100% effort, week in and week out, or standards slip, and it's very difficult to start climbing that hill again. Football's a mad psychological sport. It's crazy. You've seen it before. A team would be cruising in a game. They'll concede a goal and get jittery. All of a sudden the stadium feels it. You can't half-arse this. This is top-level sport. These are highly paid, highly trained athletes. Everything needs to be done to the highest level, or don't do it. Dramil said some people have started calling our players arrogant, but Slot is arrogant not picking Chiesa, Rio, Gomez. I've never used the word arrogant. I don't think, to describe them. What's happening with Mo is fairly straightforward. His legs are gone because of age. It's not because of any hatred or wanting to do anything wrong. You know, he's just now doing things wrong because he doesn't have the same energy levels. It's understandable, but this is where somebody needs to step in and take the decision away from him. Save him from himself now. Because his legacy's been tarnished now. And nobody wants that either. We don't want to remember Mohamed Salah for the next 18 months looking like a pale imitation of himself. Nobody wants to see that. Mo is affected by Jota more than we know. Tough! Grow a pair and get on with it. I'm sorry, but that's fucking nonsense. I stood there while my father died in front of me and had to go to work a week later. I didn't get to have professional counselling. I didn't get to have a group of people around me to support me. It was fucking me dealing with a funeral and having to get on with my life. These guys lost a teammate tragically in July. This excuse of Jota I find really, really, really disrespectful. We all lose people in our lives, but we have to get on with it. We can't feel sorry for ourselves. And even if it is getting to him, has he not got the humility to say, I can't do this at the moment, coach. This is tearing me apart. I need time away. I need help, because he'd get it and everybody would support him. So this Jota excuse is starting to sound exactly like that, an excuse. And I find it incredibly disrespectful to a man that absolutely would not accept the standards that we're seeing. It's lazy, it's pathetic, and it's wrong. So, here's the, one sec, I want to read something out to you. Keane found me the quotes. He said, the immediate response to the victory over Tottenham Hotspur on April 27th was justified and understandable. Carragher speaking about the trips away. The supporters were always going to start the biggest party for 35 years after being able to witness their side becoming champions. But for the manager and players, there were still 4 games left. Nobody wants to sound like a killjoy, but the time to arrange parties in Ibiza and Dubai was after the final game against Crystal Palace, not before. It may have seemed good fun, seeing all the party videos and photographs on social media, but as the team failed to win any of their final 4 games, losing twice, accusations of it being a bad luck had merit. This was the club's 20th league championship, taking them level with Manchester United. Even without league titles, Liverpool have been a winning machine. They've won 20 trophies in the last 24 years, because no sooner is one honour on the board than the work begins to get the next. At best, the downing of tools before the season was over was willfully unprofessional. At worst, Liverpool behaved like a small club winning the title for the first time. Spot on. Especially that last bit. At best, the downing of tools before the season was over was willfully unprofessional. At worst, Liverpool behaved like a small club winning the title for the first time. He's not wrong. The real Johnny Sin said, with Stevie G, I really fear that even he would pander to Salah and not hold him to account, especially after his soft take on TNT. Maybe you're right, dude. Maybe you're right. You know, I don't know. But I do know that what we're seeing now isn't fixing it either. But, you know, maybe you're right. Look, Craig, mate, really sorry to hear that, but we need to understand the emotional side of football as well. Bollocks. So, Tyler, do you remember when we won the first 5 games? How did that happen? And it was all, let's do it in memory of. So I'm not trying to say they don't have an emotional toll taken on them. What I am trying to say is they're in a very privileged position where they have every avenue open to them for help and support. Money isn't an issue. The best of psychologists isn't an issue. So if they are suffering, step forward like any other human being who's suffering has to and say, I can't cope at the minute. I need assistance. Nobody's going to call you weak for it. But if he is suffering, or any of them are suffering, and they're just going out there, putting the shirt on and half-arsing it, that's not helping anybody, let alone them. And it's not going to make them feel any better about the loss that they've suffered, when you're now piling on misery on top of misery. So again, mate, emotional toll or not, this is sport at the highest level with people who are being paid a lot of money and have every single advantage that most people in life don't have. Access to the best psychologists, the best psychiatrists, the best grief counsellors. They're surrounded by brothers and teammates. The Jota stuff is just, I find it so disrespectful. Because it's November, almost December. Alisson lost his father and played and scored. His father couldn't go and say goodbye. How about from Bronkhorst till the end of the season? Would be a no from me. respectfully, be a no from me on Giovanni from Bronkhorst. I think it'd be similar to what we see now, in all honesty. Majid said, Craig, I respect you a lot, but you need to realise that this goes deep in Salah and VVD's form. I didn't say it didn't, mate. I didn't say it didn't, dude. I've said so many times, Majid, that there isn't one thing here. And that's what's making it so sad, mate. There isn't one thing, one switch, one formation, one player. It's a culmination of a lot of things. But now confidence levels are so low. And when confidence levels are low, it takes a very special human being to be able to turn that around. And for what we've seen, mate, so far, they aren't able to do that. And that's kind of where we're at, dude. But I really don't think it's just down to VVD's legs or Salah's legs or Konate's form. It's just a lot of stuff piled on top of a lot of stuff. And yes, of course, Diogo's in that conversation. But you know, when people just say they're suffering because of Diogo, I just feel that that's a lazy excuse. That's my honest opinion on it. I find it disrespectful to him. I find it disrespectful in general because it was inspirational for the first 5 games. Let's do it in his honour. Let's do it to remember our brother. But then when the losing streak happens, people want to say it's potentially because of X or Y. I don't find that right. But I do apologise, Majid, if I came across like I think it's all on Salah or it's all on Virgil, because that certainly isn't my intention. But the reason those two, mate, will probably come out of my mouth more than others is because they are the standard bearers. They are the ones who are paid top dollar. They're the leaders, the figureheads in that dressing room. And if they aren't leading by example at the minute, that's a problem, unfortunately. Hauser from South Africa. At least with Klopp, you knew where the chances came from. Now it's blurred. I failed the semester module for that feckin' game. Well, much love to you over in South Africa, mate. I hope you can turn the old education back around. I don't really know what to say regards to the situation of the manager anymore because he's not helping himself by keep doing the same things over and over again. He's not helping himself with some of the responses after games and press conferences. You know, it's one of those things that you used to love about somebody, when the relationship starts to go bad, become things that you find very irritable. Like, I'm picking up on stuff now from Arne Slot, and I know that if we were winning, I wouldn't be calling out some of the same things he's saying. But everything is just intensified, like exaggerated now, because we're all a high emotion. Craig, what's the opposite of what Manchester United would do? In my opinion, there's half the solution. I'm still slotting on the ropes, but he has to get results immediately. See, I was like that after the Villa game and the Real Madrid game. And go back and I said the same thing. The time that I will say I think it's time for the manager to go will be when I believe the players aren't playing for him. And that's where I'm at now. Because what we've seen against Real Madrid and Aston Villa was very promising. And God, I thought we turned the corner. And it's no disgrace losing to Manchester City. But the way we lost was shocking. Then to have a 2-week international break where you get to plan for Sean Dyche, which with all due respect to Mr. Dyche, probably the easiest manager you can prepare for from the sense of knowing what he's going to do. And then even at that, we were out-taught, out-fought and outplayed. Then he has the PSV Eindhoven team that he knows inside out from his time in the Eredivisie, and he's out-coached, out-fought and out-taught there. I just don't have any more good grace or games to write off. Think about it this way from my perspective. Last night, our channel had the most views it's ever had on a watch-along. As in, the most number of live concurrent viewers. 19,500 people were in my chat last night. And it was probably the most profitable stream we've ever had. And I went to bed last night heartbroken. I couldn't give a shite about the finances. I couldn't give a damn about the records our channel achieved. All I could think about was how heartbroken I felt at what we'd witnessed. The camera shots of the cop and the people on there shell-shocked stuck with me. I couldn't get it out of my head. Football means more to me than it probably should. It probably isn't healthy, the way I feel about the football club from an emotional standpoint. But this football club has been the thing that inspired me, that lifted me up, that got me through dark times. And now in a dark time for the club, too many people are burying their heads in the sand. This isn't the resilient football club that we're all loving. This is just a beaten team. And it's so sad to see, because standards have gone through the floor. And nobody seems to want to just speak the hard truth. It's so sad. And like I said, couldn't care. Couldn't give a shite about subscribers, views. Don't care, because it's all irrelevant. I trade it all for a win. Rare to see a streamer so focused rather than viewer focused. I can't value the days that we're in here and we're all happy. You're excited, I'm excited. The season win, the summer transfer window. That feeds my soul. That gets me through my struggles. And when I see my fellow Reds as down as I am, knowing what an escape football is for so many of us, that only intensifies the pain of losing on the pitch as well. You come on for streams and you know what you're in for. You know your fellow Reds are going to be frustrated, going to be angry, may even start fighting with each other. It makes the thing you enjoy and love the most painful. So yeah, 100%. I don't give a shit. I've always told you, I'm not in this for the money. I never have been. I could have made money by selling this, by selling out, by being a yes man. But it's always been about the connection with you, the sincerity that I hope I bring, and our shared love of a football club. Right now, it's so sad. All of our family are suffering. All of us feel down. And it doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. And I thought back to the summer. In fact, I even went back through some of the videos when we, made the signings we did. I read through the comments and I relived some of it because I needed to. I needed to have that dose of positivity. And then to look at that and that snapshot of where we were at that moment in time in the summer to now, I can't believe that's only been a few months. And I can't believe how many people are happy to just revise what we all said were the standards in the summer, what the expectations were in the summer. I don't know. Sorry for rabbiting on, but honestly, it's hurting. It's hurting a lot. Right, sorry. Chris said, I saw Anfield Agenda news roundup and it prompted me to mention it. All these ex-players get their aces or access with the club, and Carragher won't risk it. Just as Fowler gets access to podcasts in Liverpool. That makes me so sad, Chris. It makes me so sad because there are people out there that are saying one thing publicly and another thing behind closed doors. Journalists, podcasters, influencers, fans, media personalities, whatever way you want to label it. And I can't fathom it. I can't for 1 second think about coming on here and trying to tell you that things will be okay, that this is okay, that the manager shouldn't be fired. It'd be lies. So all of these players saying this, like I said, Carragher in particular, coming out with the weak to save his job shit, when really, deep down, that was the real response when Konate made that fuck up. Because that's how I responded, that's how you responded, that's how any normal Liverpool fan who gives a shit responded. I don't get why the world at the moment in time seems to want to reward cowards, yes men. And I'm not calling Carragher a yes man. I'm talking about in general here. Why the world is so afraid of the truth. Why are we punished for being honest? Just because we don't want to play the game? Because we don't want to be another shill? Because we dare speak out? We're punished. It's not just in this content world. This is in life. This is the world right now. You say the truth and you're fucking punished. Think about that. These are the people that we hold in high esteem. Soldier Killer. Who would you pick to replace Slot? God bless you and your family. Thank you and love to you and yours as well. So, if we talked about Andoni Iraola as an example, I think there are pros and cons with that. I think you obviously look at the style of football, you see his ability to do it in the Premier League, but you also have to acknowledge that just like Garner or just like Brendan Rodgers, it's a huge step up to walk in. So this doesn't feel like a project manager now. This feels like you need somebody with the gravitas to come in and grab the situation with a scruff of the neck. And it may even be the shorter term thing. So, to bring it back around to the answer, I really don't know. In an Inzaghi, I could understand. I'm not really overgone on Julian Nagelsmann, if I'm being honest with you. And I'm not saying I'm right or wrong about that. I'm just saying there's something about him that I just don't... He doesn't endear himself to me. The answer is Klopp, but that's not a possible answer. Yeah, I don't have it. Zidane isn't, in my opinion, the right type of cultural fit for Liverpool, in that he kind of is the antithesis of everything we are. I don't mean that as a human being. I mean, he's a Galactico, he's a Real Madrid, he's a big bravado kind of guy. It's not really Liverpool. It's not really us. Ironically, somebody like Eddie Howe. I don't know is the truth. I don't know the answer. Because you need the mix of football and coaching ability and a presence, a gravitas, for want of a better word, which, Jurgen had, Shankly had. These people that when they walk into a room, they're in the room. They command the room. Alonso has it, but he's Real Madrid's coach. But yeah, I don't know, mate. That's my honest answer. I'm not going to just throw lazy names out there because I don't know. One name that keeps coming up to me, and I know nothing about this gentleman, but other people in football that I've spoken to keep coming back to Sebastian Hoeneß as being very Klopp-esque. But like I said, I wouldn't be able to give you a real opinion on him because I don't know enough about him. The real Johnny Sin said, thank you, Craig, for finally opening up about the Jota excuse that everybody brings up. I was seriously getting sick of it. You spoke to the choir. It's a really difficult one to touch on because, of course, there's a human aspect to it. But like I said, what do we always say to people around mental health? Everybody, young, old, man, woman, we always say, if you need help, speak up, come forward, put your hand out for that help. Get the help. It's no weakness to ask for help. So in this situation, it's absolutely understandable if people are suffering there. But you need to step forward and address the issue. Every Liverpool fan, if you woke up tomorrow and you've read an article that said Mohamed Salah wants to take 3 months away from football because he's heartbroken over the loss of his friend Diogo, I don't know anybody who wouldn't go, Jesus, I feel for Mo. I hope he can get through this. Anything he needs. Everybody would feel that way because we're human beings. You know, your emotions and your mental health doesn't take into account money. It doesn't give a shit. So, yeah, speak up, stand up if you are suffering. Ask for that help. But somebody to just throw it out there as a way to kind of gloss over the abject performances, I just find that very disrespectful. Coming at it from a purely business point of view, the owners probably want to give it time because it's very expensive to sack a manager. I get it's also expensive to miss out in Europe or not win. Maybe, Harry. Yeah, look, like I said, I've never been in a position where I'm dealing with that level of money. So, you know, I don't know what the decision-making factor is. But like I said, you know, if you look at the downsides, there are plenty to look at from a financial standpoint. You know, how many people do you think now are buying Salah shirts or are buying Van Dijk shirts, or, you know, how many people are, you know, wanting the trip to watch Liverpool for Christmas now, let's say, that maybe they would have wanted 2 or 3 months ago? How many people are buying their All Red subscriptions to watch the video content? You know, there's all these things as well as the goodwill. And it's not a good look for sponsors or anybody else to see Anfield emptying out with time left on the clock. So, yeah, I promise you though, Harry, if I felt in any way that I thought he could turn this around, I'd be his most staunch supporter. As I was when I defended him against people who said it was just Klopp's team and he got lucky. Go back, I'm not an Arne hater. I was the very man who sat here and said that others said he was coming in to be a sacrificial lamb. Glenn Johnson and former players said this is the manager to come in after Klopp to fail and then the next guy comes in. And I said, no, Arne isn't that type of character. So I'm not a hater of him by any stretch. I am being so sincere when I say me, Craig Houlden, do not see a way that this is changing, will change or can change as things stand right now. There's no performances getting better. There's no relationships being built around the pitch. Injuries are picking up. People are being overplayed. It's all just pointing to an outcome of he is going to be fired. It's just how much more of this do we all have to sit through? Leyland Truman said, hey Craig, what have I missed? Sorry tonight. Just people venting, mainly me venting, to be honest with you, dude. Mark Harding said, Slot's a coach, Klopp was a manager. It's the difference. Yeah, but even if you're just looking at it from a pure coaching perspective at the minute, he's not exactly hitting the marks there, is he? The Bins said, like you said, it's the way we're losing that hurts. Exactly. I've said as well, there's no harm losing to Manchester City at the Etihad. It's a tough game at the best of times. But the way you lose, man, that's it. Like, the fight isn't there. Can anybody, and look, I'm not saying this hasn't happened, this is a sincere question. Can anybody think of a manager at any club who's gotten this close to the sack and then really turned it around? The only one I can think of is Sir Alex Ferguson, way back when he became United manager. He was an FA Cup defeat away from being fired. In the modern era, I really can't think of anybody else that's gotten to this point where the stadium has turned, the fans have turned, and turned it round and prospered from it. I can't think of one. Other than Grav, what players aren't improved? Soboslai, Jones, Grav. That's probably the three I can think of. Yeah, but how much of them were down to his style being more suitable to the lads as well, I don't know. But that's my sincere answer. They're the only three I can think of. I don't care about the City loss it up the Reds. It's the losses against PSV and Forest. Yeah, like both by 3 goals at home. That's crazy, man. It's crazy. Gary Jenkins, what do you think of Shankly saying, if you can't support us when we win, when we lose the draw, don't support us when we win? I think it's absolute bollocks that, again, people use lazily. Because didn't he also say that he wants us to become a bastion of invincibility? That part seems to be forgotten about with this lazy nonsense of, if you can't support us when we lose, bollocks. Nonsense. He told those players over and over again, they represent the city, they play for the city, they have a duty to go out there and play for those fans. And this was at a time where they weren't multimillionaires. So anyone that trots out that nonsense Shankly stuff in the context that they're using it in is lazy. Simple as that. Because you did not achieve what he achieved by accepting mediocrity. Those that came after him didn't achieve what they achieved by accepting mediocrity. So that's just garbage, is what I'd say. Tero, welcome to Anfield Agenda Ultras, mate. Appreciate you. So, I've answered your question, Gary. We've about 5 minutes left. What do you guys think of that quote when people throw it out? Because it seems to be something that a lot of my fellow Liverpool fans at the minute feel irked when it's put out. Because why is it being used, I think, is important, Gary, to ask as well. And usually, mate, it's being used by somebody who wants to feel morally superior to you and run you down for their question in the club. Am I right? They're not using it in a balanced context. They're using it to feel superior to the person they're talking to. That's it. My only problem with second slot is who replaces him. My dream would be Klopp comes in as an interim, as he just wants to return to full-time management. Martin, I get that, mate, but you know it's not your job or my job, bro, to figure that out. You know, we got to address what's in front of us at the minute, and of course that has to come into the equation. But you know, these guys get paid a lot of money to make those calls and figure that out. Gary said, I agree with you, mate. Wants your opinion. Thank you. Appreciate that. And look, I knew the way you'd asked it, Gary, that you weren't saying it to me. You were asking a genuine question, bro, which is why, you know, I answered it the way I did. If it was somebody coming in to just say, if you can't support us, but you'd have gotten a very different response from me, bro. But I knew you were asking a sincere question. I'm slot in. Good for you. I've no problem with that, mate. I don't think you have to agree with me. You be slot in all you want. But, you know, if you're slot in and this continues, you don't get to moan about it. People use it in an act of arrogance. Exactly. People find it hard to understand the difference between critique and support. Yes, sir. Absolutely agree on that. You know, the people that I have my most heated arguments with is probably my wife and my kids. And I love them more than anybody else on the planet. And it's only because of my love for them that they provoke that response from me and I to them. you know, because I'm a heated person. That's the way I am. But you're always, that spark there is the special part as well. So if you didn't care, it'd be a lot worse, because then you just shrug your shoulders at it. But so many of us in here tonight, the good of this football club, the results of this football club, the well-being of this football club impact so many of us in a way that we probably are somewhat embarrassed to admit. And I will certainly sit here and say to you, it's probably not rational, the way Liverpool Football Club impacts my well-being as a human being. It probably is not healthy. But like I said, you don't choose this. You don't choose who you fall in love with. You don't choose what way things impact you. It just happens. And when the times are good, Jesus, they're good. You know, some of the best times of my life have been on here with you guys, celebrating Liverpool triumphs and comebacks. And this is so tough at the minute. Cedar, so I'm a United supporter, and the things you're saying are spot on. Facts. Appreciate you, mate. Thank you. I didn't even think we played bad yesterday, but it's definitely a mix out of possession and look lost. That's the manager, but offensively looked good, just didn't finish our chances. I think there's probably some truth to that, mate. But I think the problem there comes in the first setback, and we just go into our shell then. Harry Sinclair said, it's being misused because he's talking about the type of loss when there's effort and trying hard, not when it's pathetic and embarrassing. Yeah, this isn't just Liverpool fans losing 2-1 to Man City and throwing their toys out of the pram and being petty about it. You know, I've heard boos inside so many stadiums this year in the Premier League, at half-time and full-time, but the only one that ever gets coverage is Liverpool. That Trent stuff was everywhere. United fans have booed the teams off. Spurs fans have booed the teams off. I've heard them in pretty much everywhere. But it's only us that get the media scrutiny. And it takes a lot for any Liverpool fan to even suggest booing or showing discontent. Inside the ground, I mean. Where was I? There was one I missed here from this. We've conceded 10 goals in 3 games. Yes, sir. We have. Seamus said, Slot has to make changes to the system and dropping certain players that aren't performing. If he can't make these crucial changes, we've zero hope. Exactly, mate. Exactly. Look, I'm going to say goodnight because the podcast is coming out in 5 minutes. The latest episode, myself, Chris and Connor talked about everything we've spoken about here tonight. I think you'll find it interesting. If you do, give it a watch. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Same time, same place. Thank you for letting me vent tonight. Thank you for coming in and joining me. If you can hit that like button for me before you head off, that would be great. You know, if we can push the channel out there a bit more, that would really be appreciated. But yeah, you know, we all want this to end. We all want things to turn around. But thank you for coming in tonight with a good attitude, for listening to me, each other. I really appreciate it. Yeah, have a good one. We'll talk soon. Much love.